Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're taking you on a journey through a pretty dense, but honestly fascinating source text covering the omega point 88 theorems.
Yeah, and the Dylan architecture, too.
Right, the Dylan architecture. And our mission today is to look at a super bold claim in these sources. Basically, that classical Darwinian evolution is, well, it's fundamentally incomplete.
Because it lacks a final destination.
Exactly. Like if you think of classical evolution as a car just driving blindly in the dark, merely swerving to avoid potholes just to survive.
Yeah, it's constantly reacting.
Right, just reacting. Well, this framework acts as a mathematical GPS. It provides an actual ultimate destination.
And to understand why a GPS is even necessary, we really have to look at how we normally view those potholes.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, Darwinian evolution relies heavily on entropy, the idea that systems naturally wind down into disorder. And it couples that with random genetic mutations.
Which is, it's great at explaining how a species adapts to its immediate environment.
Oh, it's brilliant for that. But the authors argue it really struggles with what they call convergent evolution.
Right, like the eye.
Exactly. Highly complex, camera-like eyes evolved completely independently across totally distinct species, like squids and mammals.
But wait, isn't basic survival of the fittest enough to explain that? Like, if having a better eye helps you catch prey, nature's just going to select for it, regardless of the species.
Well, that is the standard biological view, yeah. But the math in the Dylan architecture argues that purely random stochastic processes shouldn't lead to such eerie predictability across completely separated evolutionary trees.
So biological pathways are, mathematically constrained.
Right. And to explain this, the text introduces Luigi Fantapia's concept of syntropy.
Syntropy, okay. So in physics, entropy pushes things apart based on past causes.
Yes, and syntropy does the exact opposite. It's this mathematical curvature-reducing force that actively pulls living systems forward toward a future attractor.
Wait, really? So life is being pulled from the future instead of pushed from the past?
Basically, yes.
But what does a curvature-reducing force actually mean? Like, what does geometry have to do with biological evolution here?
Think of it like a giant funnel. If random genetic mutation is just water swirling chaotically, syntropy is the shape of the funnel itself.
Oh, wow.
It actively reduces the curvature or the chaotic possibilities of the system, forcing the water to inevitably converge at a single, highly ordered point at the bottom.
Okay, so if this entropic force is literally pulling cells and organs into more complex, ordered states, does it also scale up? Like, does it affect how we actually behave with one another?
It absolutely scales up. And this brings us to what the framework calls the moral emergence gap.
Right, because classical evolution has a really hard time explaining true self-sacrificial altruism.
Exactly. It could easily explain reciprocal survival tactics. I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Sure.
But laying down your life for a total stranger, that shouldn't mathematically survive natural selection.
Which implies that nature might not just be this ruthless corporate ladder. Under this math, it acts more like an open source network, where acts of kindness physically stabilize the system.
That is exactly where Theorem 22 comes in, which the authors call omega kindness propagation.
Wow.
They aren't treating kindness as just a nice cultural habit. They model it as a literal propagating wave that reduces friction in the system. And it gets even deeper with forgiveness.
Because the text defines forgiveness as a topological release valve, right?
It does, yes.
But topology is the math of shapes and spaces. How on earth do you map an emotional state like forgiveness onto a geometric shape?
By looking at the network of human interactions as a geometric web. When trauma occurs, it creates a knot, or a structural fracture in that web.
Oh, interesting.
And the authors propose a karma equation to map this tension. So forgiving someone isn't just letting go of anger.
Mathematically, it acts as a release valve that untangles that knot.
Exactly. It physically neutralizes the tension, which prevents the entire social geometry from collapsing.
So if we are being pulled down this syntropic funnel, and mechanisms like kindness and forgiveness are smoothing out the ride, where exactly is the bottom of the funnel? Like, what's the final destination?
Well, according to Theorem 21, it is the Christ attractor.
Right.
Building on the work of philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, this is conceptualized as the mathematical limit of perfect coherence. It's the geometric and moral endpoint of the universe. the exact coordinate where syntropy reaches absolute unity.
Now, I want to jump in here for you listening just to ensure absolute neutrality. We are not endorsing the specific fusion of differential geometry and Catholic theology.
Right. We are simply reporting on the source material.
Exactly. Even though the text notes this framework was actually submitted as a presentation to Pope Leo XIV, we're completely neutral on the theology. But you really have to marvel at the sheer scale of the attempt.
Oh, yeah. They are trying to quantify love as a physical gravitational operator.
It's just staggering. It attempts to provide the exact mathematical architecture for meaning, something that purely materialist biology typically leaves out.
It suggests the universe isn't winding down into cold nothingness, but winding up toward ultimate connection.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, this framework invites you to view your own consciousness and your everyday acts of kindness, not as random biological glitches in an uncaring void.
Instead, every time you choose empathy or forgiveness, you might be acting as a literal mathematical force, actively driving the universe toward structural coherence.
Which brings us right back to that car driving in the dark.
Yeah.
If the math insists the universe is inexorably pulled toward a singular destination of perfect unity, does the chaotic randomness of life exist merely to give us the free will to choose the ending that was already written?